Hey there, welcome to Synth Seeker. My name is Luke. Today we are going to talk about heartbeats and odd meters. In Berlin School, tempo, that is BPM, right, beats per minute, and meter, how many beats are in a bar, right, how you count it, combine to give your music sort of its pulse, its heartbeat. The most common meter in my experience is 4/4 time, 4 quarter notes per bar. But what about other time signatures, right? What about being used in Berlin School, right? What else can we do? So today we're going to talk about some of those non-4/4 meters. We're going to talk about how they feel. We're going to deconstruct some patterns, listen to some examples of what you can do. And there are links in the description to a couple zip files you can download. One is the Ableton Live 11 set that I'm using with all of these patterns in it. You can grab that and play with these patterns and experiment. And if you're not using Ableton Live, there is a zip file there of all the patterns as individual MIDI clips that you can grab and play with and explore. All right, so let's get started. So here's a Berlin School pattern. I have a pluck going on here. Okay, there's some delay, there's some reverb thing. And I'm going to have a kick drum playing on each of the beats as we're doing all of this, okay? It's going to link it all together, provide that pulse. Now I'm working in A minor, all right? That is the key I'm in. Basically, it's all the white keys on the piano, starting with A, all right? A is our root. Let me give you a sample of what this will sound like. Here's the pattern. Okay, so our pattern is 2 bars long, all right? And the root is in A, so the very first note is in A. We wander away from A, playing other notes in the scale, in the key of A minor. And then eventually we return to it and come down and it repeats. Okay. Now, I want to talk about accents, okay? There are some ways when you are working a pattern that you can accent certain notes. You push them to the forefront of the listener's experience, okay? We're going to cover a couple ways to do that. Let's do this. One way to do it is to come back to the root note. So when we're running a pattern, like this one, every time we hit the A, here, 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 that's returning to the root, right? And that is a way to accent the pattern, to sort of push it forward. And we can also do it with velocity. Here's a pattern that is only playing the root. It's just playing A's. And we've accented this beat, and this beat, right? So that's another way to accent certain notes in your patterns. You could do it with velocity. You could do it with other things like mod. And you can combine them. So here, I'm accenting also where we touch the roots, here, here, and here. You don't have to only accent roots. As you can see here, we're also accenting this G. You can do it like this. Playing a melody, we're accenting A, B, C, D. All right? Accenting sets sort of the repetition of a pattern with its accents, sort of, repetition legitimizes. It sort of sets the groove, sets the feel, the pulse, the heartbeat of the music in our mind. So here's a pattern with just one accent. Right? In repeating this, we're setting that groove in your head. And if we change it, this pattern has 2 accents. It's a little more urgent. And this pattern has 3. Right? Which gives us a different sort of feel. Now, so far, all of these accents have been on the downbeat, basically on the beat where the kick drum is happening, okay? But it doesn't have to be. It can be in between. Brief pause while I let the dog in. He's been scratching at the door. Anyway, so far in these previous patterns, The accents all fall on beats, right? This is in 4/4 time. So in this pattern, it falls on the first beat. This pattern, it falls on the first and the third beat. In this pattern, it falls on the first, the third, and the fourth, and that's fine. But your accents don't have to fall on a beat. They could fall in between them, and that's called syncopation. Here's an example of that. Right, so some accents are on and some not. On, off, on, off, on. Right? So adding accents off of the sort of downbeats, off of the beats that you're, in this case, the kick drum is playing, lends interest to the ear. Here's one of the earliest patterns that I showed you guys years ago, right? Just root, fifth, and root an octave up, a group of 3. What makes this pattern so interesting is that it's alternating between its accents coming on the beat and off the beat. And it just alternates back and forth. So from the beginning, on, off, and you can see it in the pattern. On, off. The beats are the delineations between these dark and light shaded areas, right? The first thing is the beat. Off, on, off, right? Here's another example. On, off, on, off, on, right? So you can use syncopation and accenting to give your patterns just additional interest, all right? Now we've been doing all of this in sort of 4/4 time. Let's talk about some of the other time signatures, okay? Let's talk about 3/4. Now, let's start with a 3/4 pattern that is going to look familiar to you. Right? We just heard this in the 4/4 section. Right? So how is it different? Well, technically it is the same pattern. It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is in 3/4 time, not the 4/4 we were listening to before. As a result, because this is in 3/4 time and the pattern length is 6, your accents aren't alternating between being on the beat and off the beat. It's simply on the beat, on, 2, 3, on. This is a waltz sort of pattern. Let's move on to another 3/4 pattern. Right, so 3/4 patterns, your groupings are in 6 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? We're playing 8th notes in 3/4 time, so there are 6 8th notes per bar. If you had a 16-step sequencer and you shortened the length of it, you set the last step to be 12, you could run a pattern in 3/4 time, right? Because it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beats. All right. Let's try another one. So this pattern, the next one that we're about to listen to, and the 2 following it are the same notes. The only difference is the accenting. You hear the difference in the accenting? Accent, 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 accent. Let's try a next one. Let's do another one here. Same notes, different accents. So this is 3/4 time. And you can go back and forth between 3/4 and 4/4. It'll work. And here's our back to the original pattern that we had. Now this one has 2 accents on the first note and on the 5th note. And so this sort of really pushes the waltz feel. 1, 2, accent, accent, 2, 3, right? Accents on 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, this is a waltz. Now this is 3/4. Our next tempo is 6/8, which is, we're going to do the same pattern, but it's going to have a different feel because the accenting is different. So here we go. So this is 6/8, same pattern, okay, because they both fit. 6/8 has 6/8 notes per bar, so this is 1 bar, and it's playing the same 6/8 notes as our 3/4 pattern, but now the accents are on the first and the fourth note of the pattern. Accent, accent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So the difference between 6/8 and 3/4 feel is the 6/8 is a steady sort of rolling gait. The accents 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The two halves there between the accents have the same length. In 3/4, 1, 2, back to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So it's subtle, but 3/4 and 6/8 give you a different feel. 3/4 is definitely this sort of waltzing, sort of a lurching feel almost, whereas 6/8 is steady. Now 6/8 is one of my favorite tempos because you can do a lot of interesting things subdividing 6 beats. Let me show you. So this pattern is 2 bars long, so it's 12 eighth notes, and they're grouped in a group of 3, a group of 3, and then a group of 6, which you could think of as 3 groups of 2, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? It's a lot of fun. You can mix and match stuff up in 6/8 in some really sort of fun ways. Here's another one. Same pattern, different accenting. So here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 5. Whereas the previous pattern, the accents were on 1, 4, 1, 4, 6. Right? You can keep the patterns, right? This is a great way to do pattern variation. Keep the notes the same, but move your accents around. You get a completely different sort of feel while still being related. All right, that's 6/8. Now, let's move from 6/8 into, this is probably my favorite tempo of all time. Okay, we're going to move into 7/8. All right. Now, once we get into 7/8, 5/4, things, sort of the deeper into odd meter, okay, you start ending up having things having 2 bars more often than just 1 bar. Right? You get to see bars in groups of 2 or bars in groups of 4. Right? So here is a 7. Now, 7, the way I address 7, it's not the only way, but the way I work with 7 when I'm doing 7/8, right, is I break it up into a group of 4 and a group of 3. Or some sort of subdivisions that work that way. So 3 plus 4, 4 plus 3, right? You could do, 2 and 2 and 3, or 3 and then 2 and 2, right? This, you can try whatever you like, experiment with it, right? You don't always have to count out to 7 all the time. Sometimes it's easier to break it up. But let's listen to this pattern in 7/8. So the sort of accents here are on 1, 5, 1, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? I think this has just a great groove. Let's listen to another one. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? A group of 3, a group of 4, then a group of 4, followed by a group of 3. Gives us 2 bars, 7 and 7. Here's 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So we've got 3, 3, 3, 5 gives us 9, and 5 gives us 14, right? So we're in 7, but our accenting and our note groupings is 3, 3, 3, and then 5. And you can move back and forth between these. And so that's 7. I love 7/8. All right. Let's keep going. We've got one more to do. We're going to talk about 5/4 here. Okay. So 5/4 I treat just like 7/8, and then I tend to group things into smaller subdivisions. 5/4 is 5 quarter notes per bar. If we're working with eighth notes here, like our patterns generally are eighth notes. Everything you've heard today has been eighth notes with an eighth note delay and some reverb applied to it. When you're working in 5/4, you've got 10 eighth notes per bar, right? So this pattern is 20 eighth notes long because there's 2 bars here. Let's take a listen. Right, so we're subdividing group of 3, group of 3, group of 4, group of 3, group of 3, group of 4, right? So 3 and 3 is 6, and 4 is 10, 3 and 3 is 6, and 4 is 10. Here we're going to do group of 6, group of 4, group of 4, group of 6. Here's the same notes, different accents, right? Still, it's from the note perspective, the phrasing of the conversation, it's the same as the previous pattern. It's 6 and 4 is 10, and 4 and 6 is 10, right? But here our accents are in a completely different place. Let's go back to the first one. All of the accents here are on beats, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? All those accents are on those beats. In this pattern, we've got some syncopation. 1, syncopated, on, off, on the beat, off the beat, on the beat, off the beat. The rest are on. Now this is our first 5/4 pattern. On the beat, then syncopated, then on, then syncopated, and then on. So you move back and forth. It adds interest to the ear. Okay? All right, and that's 5/4. So what I've been showing you here is a set of patterns all at the same tempo, right? What are we, 96 BPM, right? So the beats per minute is 96. We've got a bunch of patterns here, right? And the patterns range from 4/4 patterns, right? With different sorts of accenting and different notes working in the key of A minor. All of these patterns are in A minor. And what we're doing is we're establishing a root. We generally have some A's in there. That's the root of the key we're in. And then we move away from that root to add sort of harmonic interest, melodic interest. And we put accents in to make it rhythmically interesting. And those accents can fall on the beat, which is totally fine, or they can fall off the beat to add syncopation, right? But we've also gone through 3/4. You can move between these different meters, depending on how you've built your patterns. And if you're what I've done here basically is they're all eighth note patterns. And we've got pulse kick firing on the quarter note downbeats. So we can pretty easily move back and forth between them all. But a lot of these patterns are the same notes, just different accenting. And we went through 6/8, 7/8, and 5/4. All right. So just to demonstrate that you can flip back and forth, you can you can go nuts and move between meters freely with your patterns. Let me load up a little expansion on this set. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, this is the same set of patterns. I've just duplicated them and added a little bass part to give it a little depth. And I'm going to move back and forth between these scenes, these patterns. I'm going to start firing them. Now the trick as you're doing this, when you're moving between meters, you generally want to make sure you do it at the end of the bar, right? Not necessarily on a beat. You can set your trigger, you could trigger clips whenever, right? You could trigger them ad hoc. And your tooling, like Ableton Live, will very often you can set it to say, trigger this. I'm going to hit the button to fire this clip, but I don't want it to fire until it's on the beat, right? To sort of help you with your timing. When you're going to be moving between patterns that change meter, okay, you generally want to make sure you're changing patterns at the end of the bar. Okay. So let me just demonstrate for you here. That's right. So we're in 4/4 here. We'll move to another 4/4, something with some accents. All right, let's do 4/4 with a little syncopation. All right, this is that classic Berlin School triplet, right? Not triplets, but root, fifth root. Let's jump out to 6/8. Right, same pattern. Now we've moved into 7/8. Sometimes you won't even feel it. What you experience for the meter changes because the accent change, right? Because our kick drum is a steady pulse that links them all together. Now we've moved into 3/4. We'll go to a 3/4 pattern with a different accent. And then we'll jump to 5/4. We'll go to another 5/4 pattern with different accents. Now we're going to jump all the way back to a 4/4 pattern. And now we're in 4/4. And we'll jump 2 more times. We'll jump back to 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we'll go into a 7/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? And we'll close it out back with 4/4. Okay. And so moving between meters, especially in Berlin School, right? Because Berlin School is quite mechanical, right? You're not going to run into a lot of swing in Berlin School. You can, nothing wrong with swing. I haven't talked about swing ever in the last couple of years, but it's there. But because it is so metronomic, Berlin School is clockwork, right? But it's okay if you've got different clocks. They're all running at the same relative speed. They're all 96 BPM, all of these patterns, right? But the meter behind them, the actual gearing of how the pattern is working, can be wildly different. You can jump from 4/4 to 5/4 to 3/4 to 7/8 to 6/8 and all over the map, right? You just want to do it, make those changes when at the end of the bar, right? When the previous pattern is completing, start the next one, okay? So this has been a little sort of exploration of non-4/4 meters, some of the more uncommon time signatures you can experiment with in Berlin School. Really, there's links in the description to the Ableton Live set. Not the one with the bass stuff, because I didn't bother to figure out. I think I'm using a VST that you may not own. But you could download the live set with a basic analog synth, playing all these patterns and play with them. Or if you're not using Ableton, there's a zip file of MIDI clips that contain all these patterns. And the velocity shows the accenting. So look at the notes, but then also look at the velocity to see which of those notes are accent. Really, that's about it. Is there anything else I wanted to say? Oh, just I'm always on the fence about saying stuff like this. We have a really cool Discord sort of community sort of forming. And if you're interested, it is gated. There is a link in the description and a link here up in the corner to a video explaining why we have a private Discord community and why it might be fun for you and why and how you can join us if you choose to. So you can go watch that video. It's a minute or two long. I hope to see you. And if I don't, that's cool. Put some comments below. Always like to have some discussion. If this was useful to you, let me know. Share back, right? If you make some music based on this stuff, let me know that the information that I gave you was useful. That's what gives me the warm fuzzy. That's why I do this. And really, hey, thanks a lot. You have been watching Synth Seeker. Have a great day.